there's no more clouds. I believe without a doubt that heaven sent an angel.
It's Friday, November 13th, 2009, 6:05 a.m., my house. Why are you being so loud, I asked, rubbing the crusties from my eyes. I can't pee. Drank a bunch of water and sugary stuff, but I can't go. I'm sorry, sweetie. Be patient. It'll come, just like last time. Probably, but what's weird is Bryce isn't moving. I figured with all the sugary stuff, he'd be kicking it old school in there. You should probably call in. She wasn't going to call in. Celeste is like an old black man when it comes to doctors. But she, to my surprise, actually did call in this time. They told her to come in so they could have a look at our little guy in there. Later that day, I got a call from Sassy. Hey, the doctor said they need to send me up to labor and delivery, for more extensive monitoring. It's not a big deal because he's getting oxygen and blood flow. Looks good, but Bryce isn't moving around like he typically does. Okay, I'm on my way. I wasn't too concerned at that point. This was our second child. We'd been through the false alarm routine. On the drive to the hospital, though, I got a second call from Celeste. They didn't like what they were seeing. We're going to deliver tonight. Don't worry about picking up Bailey. Carla's got her. I leaned heavily on the accelerator. I'm on my way. I arrived at the hospital faster than was legal. Now, we like to fancy ourselves the cool, hip couple. But that night, we were both nervous. We'd known for a while this was a high-risk pregnancy, and so allow me to give you the daddy understanding of what was going on with mommy's lady parts. If you've ever seen the placenta, then you'll understand my name for it. Just Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. The mutant lunchbox. It's the thingy that provides nutrients and food stuff to baby B while he's chilling at the crib, also known as the uterus. Our first potential problem, placenta previa, meant that the mutant lunchbox violated fire code and parked it in front of the exit. So if natural labor began, Bryce couldn't leave if there's a veiny, blood-filled mass with the tendency for hemorrhaging in the way. The second problem, you can't remove mutant lunchbox if it latches on to the uterus. This is a huge bleed risk because you'd have to sever lots of arteries and veins. In cases where the placenta is too well attached, you have to take the entire uterus out. Bad stuff. Now, because of these two anticipated scenarios, weeks ago, Celeste's doctor put together a plan of early delivery. She laid out an entire protocol. It was supposed to lower the risks. That's the funny thing about risks. Seems like sometimes they have a mind of their own. In the delivery room, I was dressed in my scrubs, just like in the movies. My seat was next to my love, who was on an operating table, arms stretched out, laying crucifix style. There was a screen cloth right above her sternum, obscuring the nether region. Her face was glowing in the halo of the operating lights. Bryce is 63 days early, I remember thinking. His lungs are still so underdeveloped, and we haven't even picked out a middle name. Is there a chance that he won't cry when he comes? Yes. Okay. I kissed Celeste's forehead and stroked her hair. Busyness on the other side of the cloth, sucking sounds, clanging instruments, surgical aides walking back and forth. The doctor prepared her. Okay, you're going to feel some pressure. Okay. Moment of silence, then the loudest, most beautiful, tiny, tiny human that I have ever heard. I giggled aloud like a little kid who'd opened just exactly what he wanted for Christmas. Tears streamed from the outer edges of Celeste's eyes to her ears. Bryce Sanders was definitely not quiet. Now, even though his lungs and eyes seemed fine, our little guy was still, little. That'll happen when you're born premature. Immediately after they pulled Bryce out and allowed Celeste to see him, they had to hustle him off to the neonatal intensive care unit. And unfortunately, during the procedure, the doctors saw what they feared with Celeste, placenta accreta. They would have to remove the uterus. Now, we'd known the risk. This was not devastating news. We were so high on a relatively healthy baby being born, we didn't have time to mourn the reality that Bryce would be our last biological child. We'd always said we wanted to have two more. Nevertheless, we were blessed right now. I went back to the prep room to wait on her so we could see our tiny titan together. 1 hour passed, then 2. The 3rd hour came, and I knew this was definitely not what they told me would be happening. She was supposed to be done by then. Something was definitely wrong. Unbeknownst to me, Celeste was in a fight for her life. Remember, placenta accreta, the condition where the mutant lunchbox attaches itself to the uterus? Well, there are actually 2 stages after that. The worst is placenta percreta, where the placenta grows through the uterus, begins attaching to surrounding organs. It's extremely dangerous and extremely rare. 1 out of every 50,000 births. A high bleed risk has elevated to a potential breaking of the dam. Only a couple of decades ago, this was a death sentence. Today, if doctors are surprised by this, it's still extremely life-threatening. Our doctors were surprised. Turns out that Celeste couldn't use the bathroom because the mutant lunchbox had grown all the way through her uterus and welded itself to her bladder. What was supposed to be 40 minutes to close her up after delivery had turned into a pitched battle to remove the life source to Bryce that was trying to undo the life of Celeste. She was losing blood, fast. They took her uterus, cut her bladder in 7 different places. She lost her entire body's volume of blood and then some. They used 14 units of blood on her. The average adult only has 11. But she was alive. 8 hours of procedures, 8 surgeons, yet she was alive. Praise God. She would tell me later that I looked at her with a sense of wonder that made her just a bit uneasy. When they finally wheeled her out of the operating room to the intensive care unit. And she's right, based on what had just happened, I was wondering how our reunion was even possible. But there she was, smiling, a mother of 2 with a brand new mama's boy to spoil. I had one main person to thank, and without him, I would be a single parent today. Bryce. Why was he so still that day? Why did he rest so calmly and quiet his heartbeat to make doctors believe there was nothing good to come of waiting any longer? The doctors thought he was in danger, but they were wrong. Exactly 0 complications. At nearly 4 years old today, he has grown to be the roughest, toughest fellow who's willing to challenge the law of gravity every chance he gets. He was fine, but he knew Mommy wasn't. I believe somebody gave him a mission. Okay, listen here, little buddy. I need you to do something for me. Your mom is in danger. Nobody knows it. But if we wait, she'll have to come home sooner than I want her to. The only way we can keep that from happening is for you to be very, very still. Can you do that for me? Good. He put his little lungs on the line and told the doctors the only way he knew how that Mommy was in trouble. It's just miraculous that everyone who needed to listened. The next day, Celeste was well enough to move to the maternity ward. Our room was much brighter, primary colors, pictures of storks and tiny babies. It was much, much better. I think I know what his middle name should be. Bryce, she said not too long after waking. Sweetie, Bryce Sanders sounds... sounds like you stuttered. Okay. No, Bryce will be what we call him, but his first name will tell his story. Okay, so what is it? She grinned, still staring out the window, bathed in dawn's soft orange light. Actually, its name's Paul William. I like the ring. What's it mean? Paul means small. William means protector. That's what he was for me. Yeah, you're right. I own one. Big. So we named him Paul William Bryce Sanders. My son entering this world taught me one of the greatest lessons I've learned thus far. Plans are tricky. In the scale of eternity, it seems like our true ability to control the controllables is as limited as the last breath you just took. I couldn't save him. I couldn't save her. But in my helplessness, I found peace. There was the serenity of knowing that I know nothing, but apparently somebody's already seen the script and is very capable of seeing a scene to its end. Once I came to terms with that fact, in the most palpable sense, it's amazing, but I felt free.